Thanks, Sean. I think, Lauren, what do you think? Shouldn't all the politicians, Republicans and Democrats who made fortunes over the last 30 years, shouldn't we just basically take their money? Would that be fair?
Take their money, John.
Yeah, take their money. Give it back. They made fortunes, these people.
I just want some money.
You know what? We can't shame them. They're beyond shame, but the rest of us aren't.
Yeah, this is a new idea.
It's an old idea.
It's an old idea, but it's becoming a new idea today on WLS, whereas we're talking about fat shaming as the answer to obesity.
Can you shame people into proper behavior? The ancient Greeks thought so. The Egyptians, the Etruscans. I think I just made that up about the Etruscans, just like Bruce.
I'm shaking my head.
I don't know, but we're going to have a bioethicist on to talk to us about shame and how to get people to do things you want through shame. That's old school. That's not hugs and, self-esteem. Shame works. This is John Cass, Lauren Cohn, 89 WLS. More after this.
When you see trouble on your commute, call the 89 WLS traffic tip line and let us know. 312-984-CARS. That's 312-984-5277.
89 WLS, Lauren Cohn, John Cass here. Wrapping up this last half hour. You know what? You got to press the button, Lauren.
It's not on. There we go.
There you go.
We're talking fat shaming as the answer to obesity in this country.
What's wrong with shame? You know what? When America had two concepts, shame and honor, things were good. When we lost them, and now everything's what? Somebody else's fault?
Come on, John.
Things are bad.
There's a bioethicist, Daniel Callahan, who is the co-founder in 1969 and served as president between 1969 of his senior research center, but he's co-director now of the Yale Hastings Program in Ethics, and he's come up with an idea that the best way to get rid of the obesity problem in this country is to fat shame. Put up quotes around public areas like this one. If you are overweight or obese, are you pleased with the way you look? And I believe that Daniel Callahan is on the line with us this morning.
Yes, I am. I'm from the Hastings Center, by the way, only partly at Yale.
Okay.
Doctor,
I apologize.
Professor.
I'm president emeritus of the Hastings Center.
Professor, I know that you're probably getting a lot of blowback from the politically correct, people who want to hug and kiss everybody to thinness, but being a rather hefty fellow myself, I'm a columnist, a conservative, I'm impervious to shame. However, I would say that you have some historical background for the use of shame in shaping public awareness, correct?
Well, yes, I do. Because certainly my own impression of growing up is how, at least in my circles and in my world, but I think many others, there were certain things that we were more or less told you're just simply not supposed to do, you're supposed to watch out for. And often these messages were, almost sort of more tacit than explicit. And one of them, basically, was that one should not get overweight. And this is long before it was seen as a great health problem, but just at least in my family circle and class, I guess, that was one of the messages you got. And it's probably no accident that, with the exception of Governor Christie of New Jersey, that there basically aren't any well overweight of politicians or CEOs of corporations. It's just one of those things. The word got around. You're not supposed to look that way, and it's not good for your health. And there are lots of other reasons not to want to be in that condition.
But you really think that posting this out there, and some people might see this as some sort of public bullying, is really the way to handle this crisis we have in our country?
I don't know what's really the way to handle it. Basically, if you talk with the obesity experts and people in public health, none of them have a magic bullet for this problem at all. Most of them believe in a whole wide range of efforts, running from government regulation to changing school menus to educating parents to getting after TV advertisers and so forth and so on.
Nonsense.
The one thing they don't seem to want to do is basically aim anything at the individual. It's basically the issue our society is at fault. That's where the problem is.
You know what, Doctor?
Don't
If
pick
you
on individuals, and I've said, well, you really can't. It's not a matter of picking on them. It's finding some effective ways of getting through to people, and particularly at the prevention level, which will force them to think about what they want to be and what kind of person they want to be and what they want their body to look like. That's all.
You know, Blue Cross and Disney tried this in a theme park exhibit with characters, Snacker and Glutton, and it came down in 3 weeks. People didn't like it.
I wouldn't use any of that language at all. And in fact, one of the things I most objected to, the number of news stories came out, and 3 or 4 had a picture of a very obese person and was usually a female. I would not do that kind of thing by any stretch of the mind. I'm not proposing it. I point out in my article that what I want to do is find a way to put questions to people that simply makes them think about their condition.
You know what? I'm tired of the wimpiness.
I don't consider that bullying or
stigmatizing
either.
Doctor, please, in historically, okay, look at the ancient Greeks. Fat people were gluttons, and gluttons were ridiculed. Okay, it was not a virtue. It was the opposite of virtue to be a glutton. Now we take food porn photographs of our as we discussed earlier in our program, and we send them to our friends, right? So all this stuff has to do with, I think, the understanding of the right and wrong, and what is the good, and the good is not me, not a fat guy sitting behind a desk smoking, eating fat food, and drinking single malt scotch. But it's the virtuous life and the virtuous person who's thin and works out, right? Isn't that how it works?
I don't want to put it in terms of virtue at all. I would much prefer to see it. I don't think virtue gives us any clue as to what our body weight ought to be or what we ought to look like. Virtue is a matter of the way you behave and
right.
act, particularly in relation to other people.
So if you put things in your mouth, you get fat.
I don't believe that the way you look or your weight has anything in any serious way to do with virtue. I mean, I'm a philosopher. I read Aristotle and Plato, and virtue is your inner life and the way it shows in your behavior. And I think the fact that some people overeat is a shame. I don't think it's a good thing for their body, and I think it's also expensive for our health care. But I don't want to say it's a lack of virtue. I would say it's a lack of sort of understanding how to live a decent and healthy life.
So then, instead of putting out this public question, if you are overweight or obese, are you pleased with the way you look? Quote, then rather, are you concerned about getting diabetes or heart disease?
Well, that would be exactly the same thing, the same idea. Or I mean, another one might be: do you realize if you're overweight, your chances of getting diabetes or having heart disease are greatly increased?
Don't look at me.
That's all.
You're looking at me.
Get them to notice that and think about it.
Have you been under a lot of pressure here, Doctor? You must be.
Well, sure, because basically it's almost a dogma of the public health community that you're not allowed to do anything that might lead to stigmatization. So I'm getting critics from two sides. One, indignant obese people who say that's nasty and mean and got a nice letter today and said you should rot in hell. And then also a lot of criticism from experts in the field of obesity, the very ones that will not tolerate any notion of stigma. So
thank you, Doctor. We have to go. I'm sorry to have to cut you off here. We're at 89 WLS. Back after this.
89 WLS. When you want Chicago's classic hits, turn to 94.7 WLS. For traffic and weather info, tune into 890 AM WLS for traffic and weather first on the fives when you need it most.
89 WLS. It is 10:50. Lauren Cohn, John Cass. We're talking about the wonders of shame and guilt. Okay?
Yeah, we just had this bioethicist, Daniel Callahan, talking about how he thinks that fat shaming is the answer to the obesity problem. We've got Kathy from St. Charles.
Kathy, don't you think shame is a good way to go?
Excuse me, I'm calm down, but your professor, I want to tell him something. Nobody got a halo pointing out somebody else's sins.
I agree with you, Kathy.
Okay? And it's not that we don't teach shame. I think we should. The word is teach guilt, but we should instill in someone, are you going to feel good doing this? So I don't know if it's teaching guilt or something. But once again, remember, nobody gets a halo pointing out somebody else's sins.
Okay, Kathy.
All right? Thank you.
All right, thanks. I guess Kathy was upset, but she's calmed down now. That's good. You know what? And when I feel like having a big gulp and an extra piece of fried chicken and those 2 biscuits, they're tasty, but guess what? I feel bad after.
You do?
Yeah, Fred, Chicago.
Well, I always believe in personal responsibility.
Thank you, Fred.
But let's face it, almost everything in this society is loaded with sugar and salt. I mean, ordinary breakfast cereals, a woman going out to buy food for her family is buying tons of sugar and salt, and just ordinary bread, ordinary breakfast cereals. And you don't see a lot of that stuff in some other countries. They don't have half of that stuff.
Olive oil and wheat bread.
Yeah.
Feta cheese and olives. Dude, come on.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just ordinary breads and stuff like that. It's just loaded with sugars and salts.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
So you think that, what about the doctor's idea, though, that shame can be used to...
Oh, yeah, it's shame, too, but, let's face it, people can't get out and exercise, and if they're just eating ordinary food and sitting behind a desk all day, like you probably do, I would like to get out. I
could lose 100 pounds, man. And
yeah, I'd like to get out and run around the block, too, but unfortunately, I got to go to work, afterwards, and if you're just eating ordinary, unless you're eating nothing but vegetables and raw vegetables and raw,
Don't start, now you're starting to sound like Michelle Obama. It's just, you're freaking out a little bit.
What I am doing is practical, telling you the practical facts. You go on a salt-free diet, and then you go back and eat half the foods that you used to eat, and you'll be surprised what you will taste.
You won't even be able to put your shoes on. Anyway, Lauren Cohn, nutritionist. I don't know if she told you that. John Cass, columnist. 89 WLS. More. Can't wait to get on my donkey, get lit up, and ride my bony donkey tonight. Okay, back more after this.
Coming up today, 2 on Ron Roper. There's a chicken wing crisis in America, and we're all plucked.
Star Wars has a new director, and I'm in geek heaven.
Ron Roper, afternoons, 2 to 6, 89 WLS.
John Cass, Lauren Cohn, 89 WLS. Lauren.
It's the end of the week.
End of the week, but I think we hit on a great public policy thing. Sustainable transportation, and you can drive it while drunk. Go to the pubs, get on your little donkey, take you home. You have to you need to
remember that for this weekend, John.
Got to hook your leg over around it because they have like a bony ridge on the back, and it could be uncomfortable. So you need to learn how to ride them.
Just make sure you feed the donkey when you get home.
Yeah, a little hay.
Nice hot meal.
Little hay.
Do not fat shame.
Take them out to the pubs.
No fat shaming.
Take them out to the pubs next time. That's what I say.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Ride that little donkey to the pubs, and then he takes you back. And, in the snow, he'll weave through. It'll be safe, and they don't slip.
So if I come out to your house on Monday, you're going to have a donkey?
I would like
you
to
think
have...
you're ready?
Yeah, because mules are too big. And then, then Rahm Emanuel could have a whole bunch of...
Would Mrs. Cass be okay with that?
Well, we keep them in the backyard, All right, more after this. See you next week. John Cass, Lauren Cohn, 89 WLS. But I just can't quit you.
In our 89th year, entertaining Chicago, 89 WLS.